All right, guys, we got another video here from Too Lazy to Try, Andrew Santino versus Andrew Schultz. As you know, I did a video reaction recently about this Andrew Schultz thing, but that was before he went on JRE.
And then I think that there's like people on another level up, we were saying earlier, that are like seeing these like people talk shit about it, and they're getting concerned that it could like negatively impact them in a way. So they're doing this like, it's the most shit. They're like trying to create a little distance, not too much where they can't call you and say, "Hey, I got a pod, I got a."
Oh, you mean Andrew Santino?
Yeah, like not too much where it's like, "Oh, I'd like to come on your pod, but I'll have a guy who's gonna shit on you for the whole fucking episode and not give you pushback." It's like, and it's not just him.
Well, they didn't have Mark Maron on the podcast simply so he could shit on Joe Rogan. I mean, what a weird take. You know, have this guy on to just shit on, you know, your best friend ever. Like, it doesn't make any sense. He was obviously promoting a special, and they happen to talk about Rogan. Let's hear what else.
Just him. Like, I've seen other people do it, and it's just like, dude, you're gonna go through some cancel shit later. All these guys, they're gonna go through something later, and they had a guy that they could call that would bring them on the biggest platform in the world and let them explain themselves.
Well, that's not true, Andrew Schultz, because what about Ari Shaffir? What about Shane Gillis when all that shit? Yeah, he might have you on after things seem to blow over, but he's not having you on during the shit. He didn't have Chris D'Elia. He didn't have Chris D'Elia on when he went through his shit. He still hasn't had him on. He's recently only had Brian Callen on. But also, is he having them on so they can explain themselves? Is that why Brian Callen came on, so he could be like, no, this is what happened. This is, I mean, come on, Schultz. Again, another weird take.
Have their back. Like, you will do it.
All right, so Andrew Schultz has really been going at Andrew Santino recently. Like last Flagrant episode, Schultz was taking some shots at him and Bobby Lee. Then he went on Rogan's podcast after, and he had even more to say about it. Like, you could tell he really wants Rogan to cut off Santino because Schultz thinks he betrayed Rogan by making fun of him.
Look, even if that's true, even if there was some betrayal and Schultz really is standing on this idea that Santino needs to be cut off, it's like, what is that gonna? What's gonna change? What is Joe Rogan gonna somehow stop Andrew Santino from being successful? That doesn't make any sense. He's already successful. How are you gonna take that away? I mean, look at Brendan Schaub. He still exists, making money somehow. This idea of this power is insane. That Joe Rogan wields all this power that he can, right? Yeah, maybe 15 years ago, dude. Maybe. But today, in 2025, most people don't even watch Rogan. And if they do, it's to cut up clips and mock him, right?
And having on Mark Maron and letting him trash Joe without saying anything. Also, out of all the comedians that have done Joe's podcast and make jokes about him now, you know, the ones that Schultz thinks have backstabbed him, Santino's the one who Rogan did the most for. You know, everyone else like Anthony Jeselnik, Stavros Hakias, Mark Maron, Dan Soder, and Bobby Lee, they're not Rogansphere comedians, and they've only made 1 or 2 appearances on the podcast. I don't think they're
okay. So at first, when he said that, I thought he was saying that out of all the Rogansphere comedians, Andrew Santino has gained the most by being on Rogan. And that, you know, you could make an argument there and say, yeah, that's might be true. I don't know statistically. I will say that I think out of successful comedians, Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura, these Rogansphere guys, Santino and Bobby are right there, but I don't consider them Rogansphere guys. But out of all of them that have been talking shit, allegedly, Santino's probably the most in, is what he's saying. And I'd have to agree with that 100%. There's somebody that probably went hunting at one point with Joe Rogan, played pool with Joe Rogan. It is Andrew Santino. But there's nothing wrong with him biting back or growing or changing as he's gotten older and gotten successful in his own way. It only makes sense for him to be like, you know, I'm starting to see through the mirage, you know, that was this Joe Rogan monolith, right? He's finally, the blinders have been taken off, and now I'm seeing everything a little bit clearer. And these guys do fucking suck. And I have to say that channels like Too Lazy, guys like Red Bar, Podcast Cringe, these channels are helping do that. And people can make an argument all the time that we're fucking cringe or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, you're just mad because nobody was critiquing comedy like this 20 years ago. Okay? People have been critiquing movies and music and all kinds of art forever. Up until the internet existed, comedy and stand-up in itself was not critiqued. People might write articles, but for the most part, it was on the fringes of entertainment in itself as is. Now that it's became a little bit more mainstream, people like myself, like Too Lazy, like these other guys that actually enjoy comedy, we have takes, man. We have reasons to talk about this shit. And it's just new. That's why it seems so weird for us to talk about these guys. There's people, I mean, what's his name? Roger Ebert, right? Guy made millions of dollars critiquing movies. So that's a guy crying about other guys and girls and monsters and, you know what I mean? Like, it's movies, bro. Same thing with music. People have made millions critiquing music, right? But as soon as you say that you're critiquing comedy, all of a sudden it's like, what? That's obtuse. You're like, no, it isn't. It's just new.
They're ever very close to Rogan. But Santino, he's been going on his podcast since 2017 and has made 11 appearances. So Rogan's done quite a bit for his career and considers him a good friend. So out of all the comedians that goof on Joe, Santino's probably the one that Joe feels the most disrespected by. But he's trying to look at it like Santino's just busting his balls. You know, it's what comedians do.
Exactly. Now, I like that. I like that because that's Joe Rogan's whole thing, right? The green room. Right? That green room, dude. You guys can't handle it. You civilians can't handle the green room. We're in here busting balls, dude. If we did this at your 9 to 5 job, we'd get fired. It's sacred. But yet, as soon as somebody starts busting your balls on a podcast, you're going to get sensitive. And what's funny is Joe Rogan isn't even the one getting sensitive. Andrew Schultz is getting sensitive for Joe Rogan. There's nothing more cringe than that. It's no different than people in the comments defending the guys. It's like, buddy, what are you doing? Is he your dad? Right? You don't know the man from Adam, okay? And here you are telling me this and this and this and this about him, trying to convince me. It's like, okay, we have the same relationship with the guy. You know what I mean? Zero. Anyways, more.
But Schultz is trying to convince him it's more malicious, probably because Santino's also talked shit about Schultz too. He criticized podcasters for getting political and specifically mentioned Flagrant. And then also this past year, Santino has started to goof on Rogan a little bit and had on Mark Maron and let him talk shit. So that's why people are surprised to see Santino on Rogan's podcast last month, because Schultz is right. It seemed like Santino was trying to distance himself, but then when he had some...
Well, here's the thing I remember is one of the early... Well, actually, I would say within the first 3 episodes of Bad Friends, Andrew had went on Rogan, and they played some of his podcast on Rogan, and Rogan critiqued his set. He made fun of that dumbass set that they had when they first started, with the blue background or whatever, the orange. It was very strange. I don't know. There was bubbles on the wall. It was ugly, and even Red Bar covered it. How Andrew was hurt. You could see it in his face and his responses to the critique. He was definitely in his feelings that Joe didn't like his set.
Something to promote. He went on Rogan's podcast and acted like they're all good. Even though looking back on it, that podcast did seem kind of awkward, and you could tell there was some tension there. Because also Santino knew Rogan was going to get pissed about the Maron podcast. Maron at one point said he didn't think he was on Rogan's radar, but Santino's like, something tells me you are.
Another thing I wonder is, why wouldn't you talk the shit? Especially if you read any of your comments. You know what I mean? It's like they're egging it on. It's no different than what Stavros and Chris Stefano did on Two Bears. They knew what the fans wanted. They were asking for this, and they became sort of cult heroes. You know what I mean? So maybe Andrew knows. Maybe he knows the situation. He knows that they can get a clip by talking about Austin. Because the Joe DeRosa episode, I believe, started with Santino talking shit about Austin, egging him on. So And I also believe that if you're smart enough to go on Joe Rogan's podcast, to be invited back on after he knowingly sees you talking shit, to just be like, dude, straight to his face on the podcast, this podcast is boring. Thank God you got me. Right? Just play into it. Let him talk shit about your podcast. All you're doing is getting more people to be interested in your podcast, dude. It's marketing 101. This is Illuminati shit, 100%.
And you could tell him and Bobby kind of wanted to get Marin going because you kind of have him on and avoid talking about Rogan. Like Dan Soder did it. He had Marin on his podcast and didn't mention Rogan once. So I think Bobby and Andrew kind of wanted to hear Marin go off because it seems like they don't really like the whole comedy podcast scene either, and they like to make fun of it. Like Santino even goofs on Theo Von, who according to Rogan is like off limits to make fun of. So he's walking a fine line here.
By the way, Theo of all people could get Kim Jong-un. He like
Absolutely.
could and
Every
get
time
like a
he
legit
drops
interview.
like his new episode, I'm like, who is it today?
Yeah.
It's either Garbage Man or it's Kim Jong Un.
I have to say that is true. That Theo Von will have the most random guests, sometimes the biggest names you would never expect. But the difference between him and what Rogan does is Theo still makes it funny. Theo still tries to make it a comedy podcast. He still tries to do jokes. Joe Rogan just sits there and has a conversation with the dude. He's not throwing bits out there. He's not pulling up clips like he used to. I mean, it's quite boring. And it almost doesn't even matter who the guest is. Outside of like Harlan Williams, there's no reason to watch anybody on Rogan at this point if you're looking for it to be funny.
Kim Jong-un is like, my son really like you, Theo. So
Yeah,
that's why
huge
I'm here.
fan.
Yeah, his son is a massive Theo fan. That's how you hear all these things. Like fucking Trump is like,
Oh, yeah.
my son loves Theo.
Yeah, that Twitter was like, give it up for Barron, the unsung hero, getting his dad booked on
That's some
Trump and Rogan.
We are living in the most dystopian version of comedy internet.
It's
the fucking
it's
weirdest
bizarre.
thing in the world.
It's bizarre.
That makes me think that something like Vine should come back, dude. Let's really get let's get down to the nitty-gritty and stop letting these fuckers have such long, drawn-out conversations, because you're just giving us more reasons to look into the shit. Maybe the whole problem starts from how much we are able to consume and how quickly, with podcasts as well. So it's like being a fan of comedy and being somebody who wants to critique it, talk shit about it. There's so much. And it's so easy to gravitate to one thing. And that one thing for some people is Brendan Schaub. For me, Tony Hinchcliffe.
That's so strange. It makes me happy to know that this show is still as stupid as it's always been from the beginning, because I see a lot of our podcast pals or people in our sphere that are taking these shows to a level that we don't go to.
Which is what?
Well, they're all having like politicians on.
journalists.
Tim got fucking interviewed by like CNN.
Yeah.
I was like, what in the fuck is going on?
Yeah, we stay here.
Same with hyenas.
We stay right here.
Yeah.
And I saw that they had Bernie on Schultz's show.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on? I just think podcasting, comedy podcasting is entering this world of like news or something.
Yeah.
And people are taking it serious. And it's not.
It's so good to have doctors in the house.
Well, let's be honest, man. Most people that are fans of comedy, including myself, not super informed people. You know, I learned a lot of my politics and things like that and just Illuminati and conspiracy things from guys like George Carlin. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I was like, huh, he is making a good idea about those Christians. You know what I mean? Or he really does have a good point about those men in suits controlling us all, huh? All right, guys, well, I think I'm done. Go check out this video from Too Lazy to Try, Andrew Santino versus Andrew Schultz, and 100% of you probably already watched this as it is. Shout out to his channel, great channel. Sort of inspired a lot of us as well as Red Bar, you know what I mean? Not just the nastiness, but the fun of critiquing comedy. Something new, man, but get used to it. Until next time.